Israel is still starving Gaza, and other notes. Israel is still blocking humanitarian groups from delivering the aid necessary to alleviate the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza. In an article titled "Not Enough Tents and Food Reaching Gaza as Winter Comes," Reuters reports that, quote, far too little aid is reaching Gaza nearly 4 weeks after a ceasefire, due to Israeli restrictions preventing aid trucks from getting to their destinations, and that according to an OSHA report last week, 1/10 of children screened in Gaza were still acutely malnourished. A report from the UK's Channel 4 News shows warehouses full of food that aid groups say isn't being allowed into Gaza nearly as rapidly as needed. In an article titled "Under the Guise of Bureaucracy, Israel Blocks Humanitarian Groups from Delivering Essential Aid Despite Calm in Gaza," Israeli outlet Haaretz reports that, quote, Israel has implemented a new procedure requiring all humanitarian organizations operating in Gaza and the West Bank to reapply for official approval, with many denied, despite the relative calm in Gaza following the ceasefire. They're using bureaucratic red tape and arbitrary restrictions to put as much inertia on the effort to rush aid into Gaza as possible. As Electronic Intifada's Ali Abunimah put it, Israel has successfully rebranded its genocide as a ceasefire. Still can't wrap my head around the fact that internationally renowned activist Greta Thunberg said she was tortured and sexually humiliated by Israeli soldiers when she was abducted for trying to bring aid to starving civilians, and the world just shrugged and moved on. It's so silly when U.S. empire apologists cite the Monroe Doctrine to defend U.S. warmongering in Latin America, as though the entire Western Hemisphere is our property is a perfectly legitimate policy to have. The Monroe Doctrine was just American imperialists telling Europe, you see all these brown people over here south of our border? These are our brown people. You can do whatever you want to those brown people over there in Africa and Asia, but these brown people over here belong to us. Only we get to dominate and exploit them. And that's all it has ever been. And people cite it to justify warmongering toward Venezuela or wherever, as though saying, yeah, well, that's the Monroe Doctrine, is a complete argument in and of itself. It's batshit insane nonsense, and it should be rejected in its entirety. U.S. regime change interventionism is reliably disastrous wherever it happens. It always causes immense suffering and instability. It's always justified by lies, and it never accomplishes what its proponents claim it will accomplish. No amount of bleating the words Monroe Doctrine will ever change that. The U.S. empire backs genocidal Gulf state monarchies like the UAE and Saudi Arabia because if those states were democratically governed, their people would prioritize their own interests over the agendas of the West. They wouldn't permit U.S. military bases on their territory, and they never would have tolerated Israel and its abuses in the region. Fossil fuel policy would be set without regard for Western interests. The entire region could long ago have united into a superpower bloc which rivaled or outmuscled the Western power structure using its critical resources and trade routes. That's why you see the U.S. and its allies preaching about the values of freedom and democracy to the public while privately telling these tyrannical monarchies that they can do whatever they want and receive the backing of the imperial machine. Not until their pet tyrant fails to sufficiently kowtow to the interests of the empire does the West suddenly get interested in advancing freedom and democracy in their nation. This is one of the major dynamics at play in Sudan. The United Arab Emirates has been backing the genocidal atrocities of the RSF, and the U.S. empire is placing no pressure on them to stop, because that's part of the deal. As long as the UAE plays along with the agendas of the empire will tolerate or actively facilitate its abuses. I saw a clip of Joe Rogan telling Elon Musk that AI music is his favorite music now, gushing about how soulful and moving it is. Imagine admitting this about yourself in public. AI art is shallow, vapid sensory stimulation, made for shallow, vapid people who don't have enough depth and dimensionality in their consciousness to be moved by profound arisings from the human spirit. They're just stimulus response amoebas. If you tell me you love AI art, I won't try to convince you. I'll just side-eye you. Because while you may not realize it, you are telling me something very revealing about yourself. People who think AI art is awesome are the AI art of people. We've all known someone like Israel, someone who lies and manipulates all the time, someone who's always stirring up conflict and acting like the victim, someone who's obtained everything they have by stepping on top of others. Healthy people avoid such individuals like the plague. We have labels that we use to warn others to stay clear of them. Drama queen, narcissist, compulsive liar, sociopath, manipulator. Under ordinary circumstances, such people gradually find themselves socially alienated by all but the most gullible and malleable codependents, because normal people can't stand being around them. Israel is like if everyone was forced to be that person's friend at gunpoint. Say nice things to the sociopath and pretend to believe their lies, or you're getting your head blown off. Nations who oppose Israel's crimes find themselves in the crosshairs of the imperial war machine. Organizations who oppose Israel's abuses find themselves smeared, targeted, and proscribed as terrorist groups. Individuals who oppose Israel's atrocities get fired, slandered, marginalized, censored, and silenced. The healthy impulse we all have in ourselves to pull away from such loathsome entities is being overridden by brute force. All normal people want to turn against Israel and do whatever is necessary to end its tyranny and abuse, but the imperial institutions are doing everything in their power to coerce them to comply. That's the only reason Israel has any remaining support at all. Hopefully, someday, they won't even have that.